Happy Monday. Happy Monday. This is the 11th day of April. This is the 71st episode of season 3 of the Be Your Own Hero show. Hero is an acronym. It means, do I have one on? Yes, I do. Helping everyone reach optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. I'm your host. I am Sekouwrites. I am a professional creative and the creator of the Hero Ministry movement, which is my effort to uplift and inspire people in general and the unhoused community specifically. So, shout out to New Thought Media Network for allowing me the space and the opportunity to be here and talk about my journey of becoming my own hero. You can donate to the New Thought Media Network at ntmedia.org. It is a 501c3 nonprofit, so you could get a tax deduction for your donation. And if this show serves you in any way, please like, please comment, and please share. Okay, quick disclaimer, I am not a personal trainer nor am I a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence. And that said, let's jump into some Hero Ministry movement news. So let's kick it off with the run streak. The run streak is still going strong. This is day 315. Shout out to Tim for checking in. Appreciate you with the water and the coffee. Oh, I'm glad you asked. Tim. Tim's asking how Mr. Charles is doing. So let's just sidebar to that right now. So I thought, it doesn't matter what I thought, but the money hadn't transferred yet because I hadn't done something. So I did that something at the end of last week, and now the money has transferred. So the money is now available to give to Mr. Charles. And what I wanted to ask, I hadn't had this thought before, but what I wanted to ask the people, the heroes in the chat, is what do you think about giving some of that donation money to the fire department that came and helped Mr. Charles into his unit? I'm fine either way. I just had that thought over the weekend, so drop that in the chat. Let me know what you think. But the money's available, so I'm going to make my donation to Mr. Charles for sure, and maybe to the fire department. We'll see what you guys say. But yeah, we're about to close the loop on that this week. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. Okay, so run streak day 315 is today. I'm going to play the run story, the run report. I'm going to play today's run report, and then I'm going to tell you about this weekend. So stay tuned for that. Coming up right now, and this was earlier today. Here we go. Run streak day 315. I've been running every day, at least a mile a day for now 315 days in a row. Super sweaty today. And today's day 315. I did a 5K around Hadley Park. And my run story for today is more experimentation. As you know, if you've been watching the run stories, I got a run watch finally. The challenge I had yesterday was my sleeve kept running over the run watch, so I couldn't see what I was doing. So I had to adjust that. So you see what I did? I used the wristband to hold my sleeve up so that I could see my watch clearly without having to move anything. And obviously the wristband is helpful with keeping the sweat out of my eyes. I got one on each wrist so I could get the sweat out of my eyes. Yeah. So the wristbands are working too. And let's see what else. Oh, so the thing about the watch is stinging today. The thing about the watch is it doesn't give a notification every half mile. I was using the Strava app. Well, I'm still using the Strava app, but I was using the Strava app to mark my distance. And on the Strava app, every half mile, it announces it's been a half mile. This is your overall pace, and this is your split pace, right? So the watch doesn't do that. And the challenge is I hadn't realized how much I'd gotten used to the milestone. You know, I made it a half mile. I made it another half mile. I made it another half mile. I made it another half mile. And that breaks it down into chunks. With the watch, it's all silence. It's all silence. Unless there's a setting on there that I haven't found yet, it's all silence. So literally today, I felt like I had run half a mile. I looked at my watch, and it was a quarter of a mile. And I was like, oh. You know, it's different. And with Strava, it announces it audibly. So I just keep running until I hear, okay, I've run a half a mile. Let's get the next half a mile.
And I just keep running until I hear it. And I don't check the app. But here I'm checking to see how far have I gone, how far have I gone, how far have I gone. So I got to figure out if there's a way to turn on some kind of auditory support for this watch, because I would rather have those half-mile milestones. All right, so that's my run story for today. Check me out on my show, the Be Your Own Hero Show, Monday through Friday, 8:45 a.m. Central, 9:45 a.m. Eastern, where we're talking about wealth, abundance, and financial literacy. All right, I'll see you there. Later. Run streak day 300.
There we go. So that was today's run story. You see, I'm still trying to figure out different things like the watch and whatnot. So I won't go too far into that. You saw some art there. I was running underneath the highway overpass, and they built a kind of art installation underneath the highway. It's hard to get to. Like I can't see how you get to it other than what I'm doing, other than running through there or walking over there. But there's some nice art underneath the underpass. Anyway, so this weekend it was half marathon and full marathon training, and on Saturday I ran my second half marathon. So very excited for that, my second half marathon. And it's so funny to me. It very much tickles me that both of these half marathons were just random Saturdays. Like, the way I have interacted with running distance before is all this pomp and circumstance for the actual race. But this way is so much better psychologically, because I know going into the Nashville Half Marathon, which I have registered for. I don't know if I said that, but I've registered for the Nashville Half Marathon later this month. But going into that race, I know for sure that not only can I run it once, I run it twice. I know for sure that I can complete the race. So the training was set up to take us up to 12 miles, which is 1.1 mile shy of the actual race. So this past Saturday, we were supposed to run 12, but Antoine is the guy who introduced me to the concept of run streaks in the beginning. He and I went back out to get another 1.1 miles so that we could have a full half marathon under our belts. And the psychological boost is incredible. Like, I have no doubt about my ability to finish the race when I run the actual race. And also I already have a sense of how fast I can do that. So I feel like that's another life lesson. Like, the more you can prepare yourself by accomplishing the goal before it's time to accomplish the goal, the more confidence you have when it's time to do the thing. Speaking of which, one more sidebar. After the run, a few of us went out for breakfast, and for the 27th time, somebody asked me to write a book about the run stories, my experience of running every day, my run streak. And I'm always working on a book. I've got 80 different books on my hard drive, the beginning of 80 different books. But what's interesting about this is I don't remember ever having so many people ask me to write the same specific book. So I dabbled with it over the weekend, and I'm still dabbling, but I would love to know from the heroes out there, which of my run stories resonates the most. Like, already I got to include Mr. Charles, because Tim just brought it up. And I mean, that was a huge run story for me. But I feel like there's so many run stories. Like, it's so dense. Like, the run streak as of day 315 is so dense. There's so many stories. So I'd love to know the ones that stood out to you, and I'll keep dabbling with the book idea. Anyway, so that's what we got in terms of the weekend and running. So let's move on to the Dice Roll Challenge. Now, just a reminder, everybody should be doing a Dice Roll Challenge. Whether you're already invested or not, this is just a way to give you more money to invest. Or if you haven't invested, this is a way to give you money to invest. If you haven't seen this before, basically we're using the Dice Roll Challenge to set aside the amount of a cup of coffee a day into a separate account, an investment account, my mom said I should say, into a separate investment account, and then using that money to invest, right? And Rev Mel's story was great because she is already investing, but she did the dice roll challenge and she was able to buy a full share of Tesla. It only had to contribute a little bit more money to what was already in her investment account from the dice roll challenge. So the point is, it works. It works. It works. So do it. Just do it. So for the people who are going hard in the paint like Rev Mel, for the weekend, let's just call it 6 and 6. $6 for Saturday and $6 for Sunday, $12 for the weekend. For everyone else, for the modified dice roll challenge, we're doing 5 days a week. We're rolling the dice and we're picking and we're using the number that the dice says. All right, so here we go. Dice roll. I need a dice roll sound effect. Wow, another 6. Another 6. There we go. So we'll leave that face up right there. So take $6, which is less than many of the cups of coffee at Starbucks. Many of them. Many of the drinks, I should say, at Starbucks. Take $6, move it into your investment account, and just leave it there. All right? This is a way that you can invest. And investing is not optional if you want to change your financial circumstances. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. All right, moving on. Morning Zen. So, as you know, if you've been watching the show, I have been rereading The 7-Day Mental Diet. It's a book by Emmett Fox. It was written in, I think, 1935. It's an old book, but the knowledge and wisdom is very, very powerful. So this is where I got. I want to read this today, and then I'm going to recap the other things that came up for me during the 7-Day Mental Diet thus far. So this is actually a few different sections, but I'm going to read all of it and then circle back to the thing that's most important. All right, here we go. Our spirit very often sinks. Let's start over. Our spirit very often sinks when our circumstances and the place we are finding ourselves at present are not how we wish it to be. Our rejection of our current circumstances or life situation can cause us immense suffering. Buddha taught us that a certain amount of suffering is inherent in this world, and the cause of that suffering is the changing nature of things in the world we live in. And this is the part I really want to emphasize. Life is change, and change is life. We suffer because we like things to stay the same, while it at no time can and ever will. I'm going to read that part again. Life is change, change is life. We suffer because we like things to stay the same, while it at no time can and ever will. That's strong. That's strong, right? And it's so true. Once we get in a comfortable rhythm with something, we want it to stay the same. And we forget that it will change. Inevitably, it will change. Whatever it is, it will change. Small things, big things, medium things, they're going to change. They're going to shift. They're going to evolve. And so if we accept that life is change and change is life, then that will help us manage the flow. When things start to flow from one situation into another situation, we'll be able to manage it better if we keep reminding ourselves that change is life and life is change. So that's what I got from, I don't even know what day this is of the 7-Day Mental Diet. I feel like I'm doing it not strictly by day, but more by impact. But that's what I got from today. And I just want to recap some of the things that we already talked about from the 7-Day Mental Diet. The first for me was cheerful versus fearful. I'm still using that. It rhymes. It's easy to remember. And in moments when I find myself thinking thoughts that are not pleasant, I remind myself to push for cheerful. So keep that with you. Cheerful versus fearful. The second thing is my own remix of something that was in the book. Write down longhand, money is, and then fill in the blank. Money is, fill in the blank. Doing that last week resulted in us discovering a number of money myths. So if that happens for you, drop the money myth in the chat so we can talk about it, so we can explode these money myths together. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. The next thing is thoughts are magnetic. This is true. You know this from your own life. Thoughts are magnetic. As soon as you start thinking a positive thought about a person, let's say, you think more positive thoughts about that person. As soon as you start thinking a negative thought about some person, you start thinking more negative thoughts about that person. So you know this to be true. Thoughts are magnetic. So this takes us back to cheerful versus fearful. Think cheerful thoughts. Next thing, stop your stressful thoughts with visuals. The book suggests picturing a huge red stop sign in your mind when you realize that you're thinking a negative thought. And you can remix that however you want. You know that I've remixed it to a scene from a movie I like. But do whatever it is that you need to do to stop yourself mentally by using visualization from thinking negative thoughts. And the last one, the most recent one, is embrace change. Remind yourself that life is change and change is life. Life is change and change is life. And embrace change as it comes up. Okay, so now we're moving into abundance, financial literacy, wealth. Let's go. Let's do this affirmation and a reminder and get into some chats about money. So we're going to read this affirmation with extra credit, folks. You're going to read the affirmation twice as an incantation, meaning you have to feel it. You've got to get your subconscious to believe it. This is not about what you say in your conscious mind. This is about getting your subconscious mind to know this to be true. And when your subconscious mind knows this to be true, it will start manifesting around you. All right, so here we go. I am so happy and grateful to be a multimillionaire in every area of my life. So that was an example of me just reciting the affirmation, right? I got the words right, but not the feeling tone. So the second time, we're going to reach for the feeling tone. Here we go, all together now. I am so happy and grateful to be a multi-millionaire in every area of my life. Ashe. And when you do it that way, it feels different. It feels different in your spirit. And moving on, the reminder, if you only spend, you'll stay poor. If you only save, you'll stay middle class. If you want to get wealthy, you must what? You must invest. It's not optional. Okay, so that said, we've been talking a little bit about myths. There's so many things that I want to talk about at this point. So let me talk about the myths a little bit. So one of the myths that came up last week was money only comes from hard work. And then there was another one that came up at the end of last week. Ain't no more money where that came from. And let's talk about both of them. Because we're really talking about the beliefs that we ingested from the world around us early in life that we've never fixed. Because when you think about it, if you think about it, you can unpack those myths from childhood and prove them false. But most often we don't. We just accept those money myths and just perpetuate them, and they affect the way we move in terms of wealth and abundance. So let's go to ain't no more money where that came from. Like, this is obviously false, right? There's always more. There's always more. There's always more. And I've got a good story that helped prove this for me. There was a day in New York when I was out doing DoorDash, and I ran across an unhoused trans person. And I don't remember her name now, but I asked if she needed anything. And she said food, and she was standing in front of a CVS. And I was like, oh, you want to go in here and get something? And she was like, well, can we do real food? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we went to a Chipotle, and I got her some food. I got her a meal. And here's the thing. The thing was, I hadn't eaten that day. Not real. I hadn't eaten real food that day. I'd been snacking all day, but I hadn't eaten real food because I had it in my mind that I didn't have enough money to get a meal. Like, that's what I decided. But I was able to feed her. And then that proved to me that, yeah, I had enough money. And the fact that I was able to feed her fed me. Like I got myself something from another place, but it fed me spiritually. And then once it fed me spiritually, I realized that I had enough. There was enough money to go around. And then I bought myself something to eat. And 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 then I was blessed with abundance later that week. I can't even remember what it was exactly, but it's like there's always an, an abundance that comes after giving. So you give and it comes back to you. There's this law of circulation. As you give, so shall you receive. And it completely disproves the idea that there's no more money where that came from. There's always more money. There's always more abundance. There's always more wealth. And this is important, you've got to believe it. Because if you believe there ain't no more money where that came from, then it's true. Your thoughts will make that true. But if you can open yourself up to, there's always more. There's always more. There's always more. And act in that way, then that becomes true. And I have evolved so much with this. I remember when I first started giving money to the unhoused, I used to feel pinched a little bit. Like, oh, can I afford to do this? And I remember just yesterday, I got a $5 tip recently from doing DoorDash, $5 cash tip, which is unusual because people usually tip on the app. So I got a $5 cash tip, and I immediately thought, oh, who am I going to give this to? Immediately. And I was like, wow, what a mindset shift. And what made it easy to think that way is knowing that I will be blessed spiritually and eventually financially too. Like that's just the way it works. And so yesterday, I was trying to give the $5 to this woman that I often see, and I couldn't quite get her attention. And I was like, oh, all right, I guess I'll find someone else. And then lo and behold, later that same day, like hours later, I was driving in a different area and saw her again. And I was like, oh. And so, and she wasn't even asking for money at this point. She was kind of off duty, quote unquote. And I pulled over and I gave her the $5, and she kind of was quiet for a second, and she said that I made her day, that she'd had a really hard day, panhandling, because she usually picks a corner and she stays there and she works. And so she said she had a really hard day, and that this really uplifted her. And her saying that uplifted me, right? And so I was blessed immediately by not even keeping any percent of the $5 tip that I got. I just kept it in circulation. And when you keep the money in circulation, more abundance comes to you. Okay, so all of that. And then I want to just circle back to money only comes from hard work, because that's one that we so easily believe in. Money only comes from hard work. But you see people who are wealthy doing very little work. Like, let me rephrase that. They have the option of not working. They have the option of not working. I'll use an example that I've used here before. Two examples that I've used here before. So Shaquille O'Neal, at the height of his basketball career, was making $27 million per year, which is ridiculous. Sorry, that's my alarm. That's a ridiculous amount of money. But because he invested 75% of his income, he now makes more than $27 million a year, and he doesn't have to do anything. And he doesn't have to do anything. The money is invested and kicks off dividends to the point where he can live off that money without doing anything. He's got the option. He can do something, but he doesn't have to. So wealth and abundance is about giving yourself more options. And another example, the second example that I've given here before, is a guy that I became familiar with just recently, Anthony O'Neill. He's got $200,000 in checking and savings, which is a decent amount of money, but he's got $2.2 million invested. And I don't know what he's invested in, but the point that I was making is, if that $2.2 million is only invested in the S&P 500. Just for example, if he was only invested in one stock, one index fund in the stock market, that amount of money, $2.2 million, would kick off $88,000 a year in dividends. So yeah, you got to stack your money to get to 2.2 million. But once you do, you could live off almost $90,000 a year without having to do anything. You've got options now. You can go start a nonprofit. You can go travel the world. You can get a job if you feel like it. Or you can sit at home and watch Netflix. Probably you won't. But the point is, that idea of working hard for money is not true. You've got to make your money work hard for you. Oh, there it is. You got to make your money work hard for you. And if it's sitting in your bank account, it's sitting in your check-ins or savings, it's not working hard for you. You have not made your money an employee. You have not put your money to work. You invest it, then it starts working for you. It starts making more money for you. And it starts off slow, but once it starts to compound, it compounds quickly. You have to believe in the long-range plan, the long-range plan. And that reminds me of, I think, one more thing I'm going to talk about, the FANG stocks. Now, as you know, I've gone through a whole journey with the stock market on this show. And just this weekend, I finally closed my position on 2 of the stocks in my portfolio that were not FANG stocks. Because I was hoping to wish, and let me be clear, I do believe that both of those stocks will win. Both of them. I feel like they were good decisions. But I had to fight myself in terms of wishing and hoping that they're going to win instead of investing in what I know is already winning. Invest in what's already winning. Ride the coattails. And the other reason why that's very important is because when you invest in a massive company, then whether you watch the news or not, you'll hear if something goes wrong with that company, right? Like the FANG stocks, once again, it's an acronym for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. If anything goes sideways with those 5 companies, you're going to hear about it. Whether you're watching the news or not, people are going to talk about it. You're going to hear about it. So you have time to make adjustments if you need to. But otherwise, those 5 companies are doing gangbusters. And if you play the long game, if you don't worry about the daily, weekly, monthly fluctuations, and you plan to just buy and hold for 3 to 5 years, I believe that you'll be able to reap the rewards that the other folks who've gone before us have reaped. So I had to work with myself and get out of those stocks that I was hoping and wishing for. And I literally closed my position on those stocks and reallocated that money to Tesla and Amazon. Tesla is not one of the FANG stocks, but for many reasons, I believe in Tesla. As an automotive person, I believe strongly in Tesla. So I've got the 5 FANG stocks and Tesla. All right. So I think that's all I want to say. I think I'm going to keep working with myths this week, and I definitely want to circle back to the how-to guide. I want to close the loop on that. Circle back to Mr. Charles and close the loop on that. Maybe this will be the week of closing the loop on a couple of things. All right. So, I love this comment from Linda. Yes, Linda, money is a magnificent tool. Yeah, it's a tool. It's not the goal. People think about it as the goal. I know I have. I've thought about money as the goal. It's not the goal. Money is a tool. And once you get that tool, you can use it to do many different things. Mainly, give yourself options. But it doesn't come from hard work. It comes from putting your money to work. So go out there and put your money to work. All right, it's time for prayer time. Check it out right now at 10:15 on New Thought Media Network. And then it's time for Sit with Rev Melissa at 10:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Central Time. And I'll be producing a show. Maybe I'll pop on to say a word or two. And I'll see you here tomorrow on Tuesday. And we'll keep talking about myths and circle back to the how-to guide and circle back to Mr. Charles. All right. See you mañana. Later.